I am here with Holly Beals, a member of my Christian Authors in Action program. Holly, I am so excited to have you here as a guest on the podcast. I was hoping that you could tell us a bit about yourself and the current work in progress that you're working on.
Thanks so much for having me, Dalene. It's really fun to talk to you. I just appreciate the opportunity. I'm an artist. I primarily work with acrylic paints and I incorporate a little bit of collage in there too. I've been doing that for about the past 12 years. And it's just been a process of finding my style and my artistic voice. And then along the way, I think it was just before I started painting, so more than 12 years ago, when I had this desire and interest in writing a book, but life happened and I forgot about it. And I didn't even know at that time, like what the book would be necessarily. I'd always enjoyed creative writing in school. My favorite subjects were writing and art and I was scared of math, but I tried really hard. So I got good grades just because I tried so hard. It was just about a year ago that desire to write resurfaced. It was just a day when I was at home. My kids were at school. I have two boys and I was going to paint. I had intended to paint that day, but I think I just started thinking about the book that I would write. I started thinking about the relationships I'd had built over the last 12 years or so with other artists and the conversations I've had with them. I thought about how I myself got into painting and pieces started fitting together. And I thought, wow, I know the book that I want to write. So basically, it's my way of sharing God's goodness and the gospel with other artists and creative people in ways that I think are visually, just using some of my design background and collaborating with a friend. I really want to focus on like strong visuals as well as writing. And I'm incorporating some journal entries from that time just before I really started painting. And I was living abroad. I was living in and teaching in Tibet conversational English to college students. And at that time, I also had some art supplies in my apartment. And I was really wrestling with, is this where I'm meant to be long term, teaching English here in Tibet or anywhere else? I just didn't know if that was a long-term thing or a right now thing. And I got to a point, I think when I was first headed over there, I knew for sure that's where I'm supposed to be. And then at some point in the middle, I started feeling like, I don't know. I felt really conflicted. I was missing home. I knew I needed to finish out the year. But in all of this kind of wrestling, there was just a day where I pulled out those paint supplies I had stashed in an apartment and I started painting. I collaged the words on that said here and now. I knew that God was asking me to just remain where I am, that He had a purpose there for me. And it gave me a lot of peace just to work out what I was working through, heart and mind, to work with my hands as I was processing. And so that was the first painting where I really just put my heart into it and used both paper collage and paint. And it was in that apartment living in Tibet. And then I finished out that school year. Even though it felt a little hard at times, I had a lot of peace that I was meant to be there. When I got back, I just wanted to paint from that point on. And so, yeah, that story is I'm sharing in my book, but it's my personal journey. And it's how the Lord, kind of some of the things He has shown me, and then how He's used art and creativity to both speak to me and express His goodness and love. And that's what I'm working on, is this project to share with others.
Love that. I had not heard that story
Mm,
before. What stood out to me, of
yeah.
course, stood out to you too, were three words: here and now.
Yeah.
And we can look at that for our writing stages as well. We aren't meant to just necessarily get our book done as fast as possible. It is a process, and it's not always an easy or fun process. There are, especially at the beginning when you're learning everything and you're trying to figure out what goes where and what you should incorporate and what you shouldn't. And that is such a great reminder for us too, that it's here
Mm,
and now. This is what we need to focus on. It's not going to last forever if we keep persevering, resting in God and following his leading. But that's such a beautiful story. Thank you for
mm.
sharing that. I know you said that when you were interacting with some of the artists and conversations and things, you felt that tug to want to create a book to share the gospel with fellow artists. Was there a moment that really became clear to you that that's what you should be doing?
Yes, a couple moments. When I worked as a graphic designer in Colorado before moving abroad, someone who worked there who knew my creativity, and I think there were a couple other designers that he gave this book to, but it was this really neat book that inspired creativity in a really fun way. Just would take you through these different exercises, these creative exercises. Go out on a journey, gather these things, be these weird creative things that creative people just love that stuff. I really was impacted by that book. And at some point, I've made this connection like, oh, I love that idea of taking people through like art projects or exercises or these little creative moments. And what would it look like if I could, in some way, tell people about God and about God's love and also take them through creative exercises? And then it was like the ideas just kept coming. I don't think I painted it all that day. I think I started journaling. I like started writing down these ideas because once it started, it like wouldn't stop. I immediately told my friend about it because she is the one that I had worked at the publishing company with. And we were both graphic designers. We were housemates for a bit, just a dear friend. I called her up on this day that I had this idea, and I was like, I know what we should write, or I know what I'm going to write, and I want you to work on it with me. Like, I want you to help me design it. We had talks before, like a while back. Oh, yeah, someday we're going to design a book together. So we had this talk before. And then, so had this light bulb moment. I knew immediately I needed to call her and tell her all about it. She has been such an encouragement and like a source of accountability, along with the Inkwell. The Inkwell's helping me with the writing, and then my friend's helping me with like keeping a schedule. And then just the excitement of getting to work with her on the design. So I think when I had the idea and then bounced it off of my friend Veronica was just like super encouraging. And I think God has used her to really confirm to me, like, yes, you're on the right path. The second thing I was given the opportunity to do like a residency, a 2-week residency. And that it was at Chalk Hill. I love Chalk Hill. Beautiful place, wonderful people. And it was pretty soon after I had decided I wanted to do this book that I got to go. And the focus of my time there, my 2 weeks there, was to paint, obviously. But then again, somewhere right in the middle, it was like a Wednesday, and it was a kind of a rainy day, and the plan was to paint that day. But I started thinking about the book again. And again, the ideas just started flowing. I did not paint at all that day. It was just there was so much quiet and peace. I was out of like my normal day to day. when I was there in Sonoma County. It's just like kind of these vineyards and just really beautiful. And so I was just able to stare off into space that day and let the ideas come, no distractions. And that was the day that I wrote a kind of creative exploration, one of the projects that I'm going to have in my book. And it's really centered around prayer and talking to God. And so I'm really excited about that particular project. And it came to me on that day at residency. And I would say, in addition to thinking through all those ideas on that particular day, I was also reading through My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which I know you love.
Yes.
I do too. And it was crazy, Dalene. It was like I opened up to that day of My Utmost. And I think I even bookmark, like I put down the page number somewhere in a journal because what he was sharing in that day was like exactly, I felt like God was speaking right to me. I need you to fully commit to this book. You're on the fence right now. You had the idea, but I'm asking you to be all in. In so many words, the Lord, I felt, said that to me. And then through Oswald Chambers and through scripture, like just totally confirmed it. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm all in. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then in response to some of the things you mentioned about timing and his timing in this writing process, I'm like, I've never written a book, and I just appreciate your just the tools and the things you offer to us as writers, like ways to promote that, setting aside that time, getting in that routine, sitting down to write. And that blew my mind, the whole idea of when you sit down for a writing session, you're just supposed to write. Like it is definitely a muscle that needs to be strengthened. And I'm still in the place of trying to strengthen that muscle. It's getting easier. But I would say that the just showing up has been the biggest part of this. And then as I spent, I think until 2:30 a.m. the other morning writing, I started in the evening at 8 and kept going. That is not the typical for me with this process. I've been doing like these little like 30 minutes here, an hour there. And like sometimes it flows and sometimes it doesn't. But I am seeing that when I just show up, I feel like the Lord is just giving me the words. Like, and it might be like 5 hours on a night where like I couldn't sleep. And I just start dumping all this stuff on paper. And then other times it's just a really important thought or transition that I come up with. And again, I feel like it's not me. I feel like the Lord is like giving me what I need in that moment, and He's providing the time. And it may be like an overflow one day and then just a few words the other days. But I know that in His timing, it's just all going to come together. Yeah.
It absolutely is. And you have just described, I think, what almost every author has ever experienced, especially with the
Mm.
first book, is trying to create that routine, that habit of writing. It is, like you said, a muscle that you have to just strengthen over time. And it does get easier the more you do it, but also being open to God's timing.
Mm.
Because we might have plans to sit and write for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, but maybe that's not when God is going to give you the most information, that He's just waiting for you to be receptive whenever He's asking you to write, but to also be faithful in building that routine. Because even though you might not be writing a large chunk, like you said, you get those transitions or you get the wording right, or you spend it editing what you've written in the past. You still need that routine time to help get your mind wrapped around it and be thinking about your story on a regular basis. For the listener out there, your story isn't going to be the same as Holly's, right? You might not get those late night revelations. You might not have an opportunity to get away for a week to write or be creative, but God will supply you with the time that you do need. And He will meet you where you're at. And He just asks that you be open to what He has to share with you and what He wants you to share with others. So I love that story. So you are now in the messy middle, what I like to call it. You're not just starting anymore. You've got a lot written. There's more to go still, but now you're also having to start thinking about, and you mentioned about marketing, right? Because I am of the opinion that everyone needs to be writing and marketing from day one. And so
Mhm.
you've been hearing me say that quite a lot. And I'm just curious how that is going as you're trying to implement marketing into your schedule as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm thinking a lot about the marketing of like how, okay, when I get to this point, how am I going to bring eyes and attention to it, to the book? I think it is hard on a right now for me to really feel like I can and should be marketing the book. I think what it's looked like, I'm also simultaneously sharing my artwork with people and sharing about different shows or upcoming events. And so I am still trying to figure out how to effectively do both. And I feel that as I grow my audience around my art, and I think you've said this before, like what I'm writing about is my art. What I'm putting out there is both my creative work, and as I fold in this whole writing component, I want to figure out how to more effectively share about both. And so one thing that I have been doing, but I could do better, is on Wednesdays, since we meet at the Inkwell and it's writing Wednesday, I try and make that my book day, like all things book related, keep to that day. I have studio days where I'm working on my art on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays, I go to Studios on the Park, which is an art center near where I live. And that's a place where I get to both show and sell my art. People from the public can just come in and see different people's artist spaces and work and get to know the artists. And so that's a more kind of relational day, which where I get to interact with artists and people coming to enjoy art. And I also try to do some of my newsletter writing admin stuff there at studios. So that's a day where I just, if in an ideal world, I would be scheduling out Pinterest posts. I would be sending out monthly newsletters. I would be on Wednesdays posting an image that says, I'm writing today. I'm working on my book. It's coming along. And those are some of the ways that I want to keep leaning into and get better at and more consistent about. I've got a lot of writing done, but I still have a lot to go. And I'm thinking about my upcoming deadlines. What should I be doing? What should I be focusing my attention on at this moment for marketing? So I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and that's where I'm at.
Know that no one has marketing all wrapped up in a bubble.
Mhm.
There's always more that someone could be doing, or there's tweaks that could be made to make it better. But the key is that you're at least thinking about it and you're already starting to implement a little bit. And no one can implement everything all at once. So give yourself grace for that, right? The Pinterest post can come later, right? Just continue to do what you can with what you
Mhm.
have at that moment. I just don't want us to silo writing and marketing and only do marketing after the book is done, because then you don't get to take advantage of all that marketing can do for you along the
Mhm.
way. But the fact that you are time blocking and making certain days, specific events, that's what you're going to do on those days, that's so helpful. I hope that our listener will be taking note of that. And if they're not implementing it, that maybe they can consider at least one day a week, maybe a couple hours a week of when you can devote to writing and or marketing, depending on where you're at in the stage of the process. But yeah, that's great that you have these plans in place of things that you want to do, things that you know you should do. And as you continue on and as you progress with the writing and you become more familiar with different things, the different terms and all of that, those will come. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for you.
Thanks.
I know you mentioned the Inkwell, which is the writing component of the Christian Authors in Action program. And we also offer the Author Marketing Lab, and we have some trainings and master classes and live Q&As in there every month. And so I was just curious if there was something that you would want to share with someone who might be sitting on the fence and thinking about joining Christian
Mm,
Authors in Action. What would you say
yeah.
to them?
Yes, I would say, first of all, I just don't think I would be where I'm at with this book in the process if I hadn't found you daily. So I just honestly, when I had this crazy idea, I'm like, really? God, are you sure that I should write this book? It felt like a lot. I was like, I don't even know what to do or where to start. I love podcasts. So I went into my podcast app and I typed in, okay, Christian authors, Christians wanting to publish. I don't even know what I put in, some form of some of that. And then your podcast came up. I am forever grateful that I found you and your podcast. And that's where I started. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. There is someone out there who is wanting to honor the Lord in their work and wanting to help others who are in this a similar journey. And I love how you just focus on making people making an impact. Like I know you feel very passionate about people sharing what it is that God has put on their heart and what it is he's calling them to. We have a message to share and you want to help people do that. And you do. You really give practical steps. So I started with the podcast. I started listening to several episodes and I was like, wow, this is so helpful because I just had no idea about the process, the publishing process. I didn't even know if I wanted to self-publish or if I was going to be trying to pitch to other publishers. And I really got excited about the idea of self-publishing because you made it seem accessible and you gave the practical steps. And then when I found out about the Inkwell, I thought, okay, I need to do this because I want the accountability. And that's what it is. I don't go every week. When I do, it's for a limited time. But just the fact that I know that you guys are meeting and that I like am committed to signing on whenever I can, I get started there. I know that it's Wednesdays. I start my time, even if it's just like I've had some time to brainstorm and think about what it is I'm going to write when we sign off, then it gets me going in the right direction. So for that reason alone, I say do it because of the accountability. So Christian Authors in Action is a broader thing. And I have like really benefited from, again, I have not been able to take advantage of all that you're doing and offering, but the fact that I know that it's there and I know like that I can go look up one of the past recordings. But honestly, I would say for the accountability and the resources that you offer, hands down 100% is worth it. And I just am so appreciative of all that you are doing and putting out there that you just feel called. And it's such a blessing.
And I am so blessed to have you as part of the group because you just have such a sunshiny personality and you're always smiling. And even when you're struggling, you're looking for that positive aspect to it. And I love that. And God just shines through you. You are the light of Christ, you're reflecting him. And I'm so excited about how your book is going to reach those other creatives, whether they are artists or writers or both, like you.
Yeah.
You have just such an incredible story to share and planting those seeds. And everyone who is writing a book that God has given them a message, they're going to be doing the same thing, planting those seeds for the particular audience, for the particular people that God has placed in their lives. And as you begin marketing more, reaching new people. And you might not ever meet them. You can sell books online, various places, and never interact with the people that you're selling to, but you're still going to be impacting them. And it's so important. And I really believe that right now, God is calling his writers to really be bold. And there's been so much happening in the world, so much that can cause us to maybe hesitate or be fearful. But the Bible instructs us fear is not of God. We are not to be fearful. We're to trust in him. We're to walk in faith and obedience. And he has such a bigger picture for us than we can ever imagine. Our purpose is bigger than we can imagine. So I'm excited to walk this journey with you. Was there anything else that you wanted to share today before we sign off?
I would just encourage you, if there's anyone out there that's listening that is like on the fence, maybe you are feeling like kind of this impression like you should write and you know what you want to write, but you're feeling a little uncertain. I just know that like I'm blown away by God's faithfulness and what he's been doing when I just decided to fully say yes. Say yes. Let's do it if you feel you should. And I think sometimes he just wants us to fully trust him and step into whatever it is he's asking. And we can rationalize and say, oh, no, he can't be asking me to do that. That's like kind of crazy. And it's just an opportunity to say, okay, God, I trust you. And whatever this looks like, show me. And I truly believe that he will show you. If he's asking you to do something, he will provide everything you need. And Second Timothy, I don't remember the exact reference. He has not given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind or self-discipline. And I love that. And I think it's, yeah, just so true.
Thank you so much,
Mm.
Holly. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, but I know that the listeners have fallen in love with you and want to know more about you and where they can follow along on your author journey. So, where can they find you?
Yes. I think the best place is over on Instagram at Holly Beals. And then I also have a website, hollybeals.com. My blog is on my website. So you can, yeah, get to everything through my website and on Instagram.
And I encourage you to go to her website, take a look at her beautiful artwork. She does fabulous work, and her writing is stellar as well. So, I encourage you to go visit, follow along, follow her on Instagram. And yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Holly.
Dalene.
Yes.